This is Listening with Franklin Livingston, and our guest is Margeaux Appleton.
So, I know we were really excited to talk about the sin.
Yes.
Right. When was the first time you heard about this term sin?
Yeah, I'd say for the first time ever hearing the term sin, I was very young. My mom, as we've touched on, is very religious, and she, I think, uses sin a little more loosely than other people might. And so whenever I did anything wrong, or whenever kind of anyone did anything wrong, she'd be like, oh, that poor girl, like, that's a sin, da 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 da, like that kind of stuff. And I remember hearing it and being like, oh, what exactly does that mean? And it was just associated with like negative, bad in some way. And that was something I started hearing a lot when I would make mistakes, which then brings into the, is a mistake a sin, or is a sin something that has purpose behind it? But to my mom, a sin was just something bad. And
so tell me, in your mother's upbringing, because she was from Pennsylvania?
yes.
In her upbringing, culturally, not religiously, do you think that generation or the community she came from, they might have used that term loosely?
I definitely think it's a possibility. My mom was religious, and she obviously had her own family struggles that I don't 100% know about, but I know she has been religious for a very long time. Ever since she was younger, her family was religious, so I assume it was something that she heard. And she's very, this is the way. I've had some really tough conversations with her when I've had to be like, hey, sit her down and be like, hey, I don't know if I necessarily believe in what you believe in. And she just like, it's almost like blasphemy to her. And she's a great person, but she just sometimes can't wrap her head around the fact that.
So what belief system or beliefs are we talking
Catholicism.
About? Okay.
Specifically, like her religious beliefs, I stopped going to church with her, and it became a really big issue. A lot of high school, I had to go to church, had to go to religious like meetings and stuff like that, and CCD, after school groups, which I did not enjoy and felt like wasn't great. I think it was also partially my church. There were a lot of kids there who I went to school with, which was very nice, but we, to get confirmed, had to earn points through a point system. And like attending mass would give you 1 point, and going to like a church weekend getaway would give you like 6 points or something. And one thing that we were almost required to do for points was go to a pro-life rally. And when I expressed that I didn't know if that was something I felt comfortable with, they were like, well, then why are you here? Do you not believe in God? Probably 16, 17, 16. And I remember sitting down with the woman who ran like the high school, middle school church program, and she was like, so do you like believe in God? And I was like, I don't know. And she's like, well, if you don't, then you shouldn't be here. I was like, well, you don't understand that I have to be here. She was like, well, you shouldn't be here if you don't believe in this stuff. And I'm like, well, my mom wants me to learn about this. I totally am okay with that. But I would ask questions and be like, okay, so like, why is this pro-life rally really important for being a Catholic? Why is that like something that's going to determine my religion or not? She's like, well, because like abortion is sin. And she used that word, and I was like, but in every case, what does that mean? Does that mean anyone who ever aborts a child is automatically sin, even if it's from sexual assault, even if it's putting their own health at risk? Like, what are the parameters there? And it's just something that I'm very much so, whatever a woman thinks she needs to do with her body to be healthy is what she needs to do. Her choice to keep her child or not is not my business, nor I think is it anybody's except that woman's, and possibly her like partner if they are in a relationship where they have a say in that together. But I would never support something that takes away a woman's right to choose in any way, shape, or form. I was like, I'm not comfortable going to this rally. And she's
And
like,
this is the conversation you had with your mother.
this is a conversation I had with the woman who ran
Right.
the church program.
So she also used the term sin?
Yes.
Okay.
She did.
Hmm.
And I was taken aback by that. And that's definitely one of the biggest times I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, I don't think this religion right now has a place for me. With everything I've experienced with it, I don't.
By religion, you mean tradition. The reason I'm just clarifying that because the other parts of the world, when people hear the term religion, right away they think of a general expression of either Christianity versus Islam versus Judaism.
Yeah, no, I
versus
mean like Christianity specifically in how it was
Catholic
presented to me.
denomination.
Catholic denomination, I was thinking this might not be a place for me. And I remember trying to explore kind of what I believed. And I'm someone who's very rooted in, I like to answers.
Mm-hmm.
So I turned to science a lot because science has some pretty concrete facts.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to be able to hold on to those, like the fact that everything in the world has energy and you get vibes and you can get different energies and that can change your mood and blah 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 blah. Like that's a fact, a scientific fact. Not like I'm in a good mood because I prayed and God made me in a good mood. It doesn't really make sense to me because where is the necessarily backing behind that? And that's not me arguing that like Catholicism or Catholic denomination is not a good thing. It just, for me, isn't something I understand. And any sort of religion is faith-based. And if I can't believe or have faith in it, then it might not be the one for me.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean that I don't respect it. I love my mom. I go to church with her on holidays. That's really, really important to her. She goes to church every Sunday, and that's awesome.
Mm.
It's just something to me that I don't get anything out of it.
Mm.
And I don't feel like when having faith, you should feel fulfilled. And I do not feel fulfilled when I go to church. And that makes me think about like my future and like what I want for my kids when I end up having kids is like to raise them. Probably, obviously, in the world we live in, I would probably get them baptized to have that, something for them to bounce off on and explore that stuff with them. And the second they say like, no, I don't want to go to church, I don't like it, it doesn't make me comfortable, then they don't need to go. Like, it's a good thing to show and set examples for things that they can have faith in, because faith is important. Mm-hmm. But I don't even know what I have faith in yet. I have faith in something. I believe there is some sort of, high power energy, something of the sort. I just don't know exactly to me what that means. And it's a super interesting thing to think about. And an interesting thing to think about, like, how I grew up. And it felt as though, like, the Catholic religion was pushed on me a little heavily. Mm-hmm. I mean, for a lot of my life, I also did, like, giving something up for Lent. I had to give up, like, pasta or peanut butter or something like that. As a child, yeah. I wouldn't, it stopped after a while because I was obviously growing and needed it. But, like, my mom, for a really long time, especially during Lent, does not eat meat on Fridays, which meant I did not eat meat on Fridays, and we did a lot of fish, which I don't mind, but it was things that I didn't quite believe in, which made them harder to do. And I would be like, okay, you have to give something up for Lent. And I was like, okay, I can give up something, like, that isn't meaningful to me, but to me, like, there was no reason to give up something big. I don't know why I should give up. Like, it always had to be something, like, I ate every day. Like, I had pasta when I was younger, like, 3 times a week, and that's what I had to give up for Lent one year, which was miserable because I couldn't eat my favorite food. And it's just like, to me, it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't feel necessary to give things up. People have tried to explain it. I don't really get the, like, reason why we are giving trivial things such as foods that we enjoy up like that.
Lent. Jesus Christ set that tradition, spent 40 days in the wilderness. There was a purpose behind that.
Oh,
There
absolutely.
was a reason, right?
Absolutely.
There was a logic. The term we have been using, logic, earlier today was, what if things don't make sense when it comes to the logic, and it's forced on us through the religious institution? The easiest way is to say, thank you so much. Right? Because
Yeah.
a lot of us don't have time to do our own exploration and researches or make sense.
And it's also something that, like, there's probably logic behind it. There's probably a reason that it happened in the first place. But the fact that it's carried on through religion isn't a bad thing. It's just something that I think is very much so. If in your faith you feel called to do that, could you feel like that'll be important to you and your soul and that makes you feel full and contented, then amazing. But there are plenty of people who don't. And I had to think about something through Lent, probably through like 16. And then I made it very clear that I was not, that was something that to me felt really pushed.
Yeah. And
if
I was going to come
feel-
there.
Yeah.
That, for example, you come to me and say, Franklin, I want to tell you about, what's the word? Intermittent fasting? People do this?
Yeah. Intermittent fasting.
Did I say the word correctly?
I believe so.
Okay. So, you got to do that. And I'll say why. What happens these days is, people will post article on social media. They say these studies tell you that if you fast, or if you don't do breakfast, or if you don't do this thing, or you're gonna what is that diet? Just grilled meat.
Keto?
Yeah,
Carnivore?
keto, yeah, these kind of things. Then such and such and such and such and such things gonna happen to your body. Then I say, wow, that's great. I take it or I leave it. No, I'm okay. And I'm a little out of shape. I'm okay where I'm at.
Yeah, and I mean, that's all like decision. If you, mean, if you've looked at something like that and there's like this will help your body in these ways, I'm like, okay, you know what, like maybe. And I don't, with my eating habits and everything and just the childhood that I have, I don't like to restrict myself on food. I would rather put, what is the word? Not traditions, but like regimens in place that, like, instead of taking away stuff from my diet every morning, I add a spinach smoothie or something like that. Something to like add what I need without taking away what I enjoy, because that's just personally. But I think the reason that to me, like, Lent is so hard because it's taking away for a religious reason, which is okay, but it's also something that I didn't feel like I needed to give up almost. And if you feel like you need to for that, like, again, by all means, whatever feels right for you, but when it doesn't, then don't do it. And that's why I had a trouble with my mom, because she just didn't understand that, you know, I didn't want to, because she was like, you know, very church every Sunday. And I'm really happy she has that.
Right.
Because that's an amazing thing to have. And I think that's also something that's been the reason why I'm feel so strongly about religions, and especially Catholic, Christian, all of that stuff, is that it was forced upon me in ways where it was someone else's faith telling me what to have faith in, when I don't really believe I have faith in those things. And honestly, there could be a day in the future I say, you know what, that is maybe the religion that I feel best with, and I go back to that. But, you know, I feel like that's something that happens a lot in the Catholic Church, is pressure and honestly, like, scaring people away from the religion by being like, oh, well, you have to. And if you want to have faith in this at all, you have to do X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z, because God said. And if you can't follow that, then, like, maybe you shouldn't be a Catholic. And then you're like, well, no, but my, like, faith lines up. And they're like, no, but you have to X, Y, Z. And then I feel like faith should be, you should enjoy having faith. And I found myself, especially in high school, dreading faith. And when things happen, or I wanted something to happen, I would, like, manifest it, like, speak it into existence over praying for it. I wouldn't, you know, talk about things in religious kind of, I wouldn't go to church to be like, okay, well, this next week, preparing for the next week, I'm going to go to church because that makes me feel ready. It started to be a place that made me feel uncomfortable and a little scared and a little singled out and a little unheard, unvalued. Because it was like, they're so accepting of everyone who wants to follow all their rules, but when I start asking questions, I start to see them push me away a little bit. And then I know plenty of people around my age that's happened to, who now are non-religious at all, or looking for other faith, just because I feel like something common in the Catholic faith is pushing. They push it a little too much instead of just being like, you know, the whole of everything. You have faith in what you have faith in. Love yourself, love thy neighbor. Like, be there for each other. And they're like, oh, but you're actually not a good Christian if you do this, or you're not a good Catholic if you don't get if you don't go to Palm Sunday or something like that, you know. And it's gotten so almost toxic. It's not the religion, obviously that's an issue. It's the way it is run in ways that make people feel forced into it.
One thing I'm going to say respectfully, you mentioned that, I don't know if you were just giving example, it was literal, that you got to do this because God says so. A lot of the traditions we practice in many denominations are made by the church leaders, whether the councils, like Catholicism, if you go back really like 3rd century, 5th century, these were the councils who were deciding on the if you would what's the term, mannerism, or how things should be done.
Yes.
It wasn't the divine intervention.
I completely agree. I meant that as in, like, that was what the church leaders told me.
Yeah, and a lot of people,
like,
it's the same
because God said so is what I've heard so many times, which I know isn't even true. It's just what people use as a, like, boom, conversation ender. You can't ask any more questions. God said so, like.
And may I also suggest it's not only common in Christianity.
No, not at all.
It's also common in other world religions.
Absolutely. Christianity is just what I've...
God. Yeah, no, the same thing. Like, I have more global perspective.
Yeah, my only experience there, so I don't want to speak out. That's why I'm kind of keeping it strictly to Christian Catholic, because that's what I know and have been a part of. But it's definitely not even remotely just this religion that does stuff like that. It's just the only one that I can confidently speak on. God's
name has been and still used in many evil ways. Right? Why? Because an average Joe doesn't have time and energy to deal with the texts and the... You know, this morning we were talking about, like, understanding the historical context of that, literal context. Writings, like, say, you're talking about poetry. And if you talk about a poem from 200 years ago, it's going to sound way weird and creepy.
Absolutely.
Because the language, and there's a literal context of the text, religious text, and the historical context, and the given circumstances and the communities it was, or individuals it was written to. So every Joe, what he or she does is they put their trust in the leader, whether priest, pastor, deacon, bishop, whatever these, they all represent to them God. And it becomes really difficult to distinguish between God's voice and their voice, especially where there's a lot of fabrication, where there's a lot of manipulation or misuse of the religion. And that has been happening in the world. The wars.
Absolutely.
And violence, right, in the name of God.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You use the term in Arabic language, English language, which is very interesting. I'm saying Arabic because... or Hindi language, or Hebrew language. In the end, you are talking about the same God, and you're telling the other human being that he loves me, he likes me more than you, and you are doomed. I'm going to kill you because you are not up to God's standards.
Yeah, religion is supposed to be community, not attacking other communities because they're not you. It's
or
just...
even the same community.
Yeah.
Because they say, okay,
Margeaux
comes every Sunday. And Casey, you do not. And Chelsea, you haven't been to church in years. So there are standards of righteous and sinners and extreme
Yeah,
sinners,
it's
right?
ridiculous, and it's so like to turn against your own community or even other communities in the name of God is like when you boil it down, all religions are just looking for something to have faith in, to have faith in humanity and take care of each other. Like that's all most religions are rooted in. So to attack other people for different religious views when at the heart of them they're very, very similar to your own if you have them is just, it's very sad that that happens, and it's so sad that religion is such a dividing point because I think it should be something that can bring everyone together. Because no matter what religion you are, you have faith, and that's an incredible thing to bond over. Even if you say it in different languages or go to a different building to get or speak on that faith, or none at all, you still have that connecting.
We even have fights. I mean, this might not be verbal fights, but tension, conflict over Jesus Christ's ethnicity. That's why we have different denominations. And was he brown, black, or white? Or what kind of white? White with blue eyes or white with green eyes? And which is so sad. Like, is that important to you? I have a question for you. You do certain things on a day-to-day basis. And some of these might be of different nature, like you mentioned. You might end up yelling at your partner. Because you're human, you mentioned that, right?
Yeah, everyone is.
Are there actions that don't settle inside you? You know, we have those sleepless nights when we like, oh my God, I should not have said that. I should not have done that. I should not have really showed my... I should not have honked at that person, or something happened in the subway.
Yeah, I'm a big worrier. I've been a worrier since I was younger. And all my like young childhood life, I was a big worrier. And then I went through a slightly traumatic event. When I was older, I lost my best friend in an accident, which made the worry, which made the worry spike even more. And I think something is that like I try and be the best person I can, but that doesn't always happen. And whenever I think about times where I wasn't a great person, I don't like it. It doesn't settle with me, but I also try and give myself the grace that I'm human and that I also have to react to what happens around me, you know? And if something negative is happening and there's something going on, you know, I can't be expected to just be like, la la la, everything's great, rainbows and hearts and roses, and when people are screaming and like, but I still never like, I don't know, I don't like making actions or lashing out, and I always think like, you know, if someone could have been having a bad day and I could have been, me saying something could have been what sent them over the edge, and I would feel terrible, you know, just worried about how like I affect others, and so I always try and put the best foot forward, and it doesn't always happen.
But whenever something happens, and the sense you get, I want to hear from you the terms you use. That sense of after something happened, which in your mind, in your spirit, wasn't right.
Guilt.
Guilt.
I feel a lot of guilt.
But why? Sorry to interrupt, but when you have that guilt, in an ideal world, if you get a chance to make that correction, what are you providing?
What would I provide
to
with my
its
correction?
recipient?
Yeah, so when I feel guilty a lot, and that also came with growing up. I felt like I was blamed for a lot, and felt very guilty, and I've gotten better at like holding my own, and that only feeling guilty for things that I really think was wrong and not things where I was standing up for myself. But if I had the chance to make something like that right, I would sit down and have a conversation first thing and be like, hey, how I acted wasn't okay. The things I said were not okay. I realized that. I wish I handled it better, but also I was feeling this, and this is what happened, and that is why I was very frustrated. And you said something that hurt my feelings and I didn't like it and I lashed out and that wasn't fair. But you did still hurt my feelings and, I reacted to that and I could have reacted better, but what can I do to make sure that I can, be there in situations in the future and that's not like a normal lash out. Like, I will always apologize when I have done something wrong, even if I hate to admit it. I mean, I make mistakes.
We all do.
Yeah.
I don't see a single human being.
And I use my partner a lot because it's easy to compare to. And, when you're in a relationship and around someone 24/7 every day for a really long time, you have a lot of issues. That's just what happens. And it's nothing serious, but it's all like, little things. And there are a lot of times I'll be like, hey, like, I wasn't the nicest partner today. I have been really tired and I didn't realize that the tone I was taking with you was not fair for you to receive, I'm not saying that like I did that on purpose and I would never do anything to hurt you, but I think I could have accidentally. And I want to make sure that I reconcile that. And I'm not really big on like, oh, let me make it up to you, I owe it to you. I don't really think that's you have to, if you break someone's trust, you have to prove that trust.
Earn it back, yeah.
And earn it back. But I would never make someone like, I would never have someone, or same thing, like, work for it almost. There's like earning trust back over time, but it's not like you have to like take me out, apologize, get me a gift, like none of that. I don't like that stuff. If something's wrong, I'll tell you it's wrong.
But if the next person does it, let me give you my perspective. The term that I was thinking, if we do a wrong, that means we did not do just.
Did not do what?
Just, right?
Yes, but also I think it's just so hard. What is a wrong, or
just go with a simple
mistake?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? But we can use a bigger word, I would say. So it's like, say you buy something from a vendor. I was thinking it can't happen on a credit card, and you don't pay them enough, or you do something which is not the right thing to do. Let's start from there, because you have worked with kids, so usually you teach kids to be just and nice, right?
Nice.
But if you haven't done that, you did wrong, and you feel convicted. That conviction leads to guilt.
Yes.
Right? Now you want to do it right. Your action, whatever you're doing, is providing justice to its recipient. Now I know it's a big word, but the principle is very small. It doesn't matter you do millions or billions or $1 thingy, or you kill somebody, you push somebody. Wrong is wrong and right is right, right? That sense of being convicted. Guilt is, again, for some people, it's a religious word. Some people don't like to use that. You can have remorse or some sort of synonym. That action which your system tells you is an act of sin. In its true definition or concept, if we don't go after the traditions. Because then traditions, what happened with tradition is, tradition always then defines certain things, a list. And either you follow them or do not follow. It's like IRS forms, right? Or immigration. When you're part of a system, they say, so I would receive a letter, I did receive a letter, and the letter said you did not file form, blah, blah, blah. So I contacted my tax guy and I said, okay, what does this mean? And he said, oh, you had a payroll company that didn't file this thing, any business stuff. Now, for IRS, that form is very important. Sometimes I receive forms, literally, I have to just write my name and sign. That's it. But in the file, they got to have that form.
Yeah.
So when you think of Catholicism or these large denominations, because system sometimes is a dangerous thing when you evaluate. It's the same thing when you apply for some sort of benefit. Systems usually see your annual return. You could have $1 million last year until December, but you might have wasted that in Las Vegas or wherever in January, and in February you need money. They don't care. They'll say you made 1 million. That's where the system becomes more blind to one-on-one needs. And the same thing with religion. They don't leave a gray area. It's either, like this woman probably said, if you don't follow this, you're a sinner.
Yeah.
Basically she's saying that you are a convicted, whatever term you want to use. If it's a legal term, you know the legal terms we hear on news. Or if it's a more like the other type, you're a defaulter, right?
Yeah, which is so, because there's gray area and everything. So like having you're either like completely right or a terrible person is just such an awful mindset to get into. And that's something I've been very faulty of having a lot of my life. Like I make one little mess up and I'm like, oh my God, everyone's going to leave me. No one's ever going to talk to me again because I'm a sinner. I'm a bad person. I'm this terrible, horrible human being no one ever wants to be around, which is not the case because people are very understanding of mistakes.
I'm so confused about this about the denominations and all. Jesus Christ, right? Most denominations, especially the Trinitarians, starting from the Catholic Church, they follow Jesus' teaching. They have Jesus' icon there, cross, everything. But how do we forget Jesus was fighting with religious leaders? Right? Pharisees were the leaders because Jesus was a Jew. And Jesus wasn't happy with the temple. He wasn't happy with the temple people. He wasn't happy with these rules and regulations because remember there was there's an instance where Pharisees said to Jesus, hey, your disciples didn't wash hands. Because their rules were extremely strict. Or Jesus healed somebody and they questioned that, should you do that? Because in their mind, healing was the way I mentioned, if you walk into a church after 5, there's nobody in the office.
Yeah.
So even if you say, I need a prayer, no. Right? If you go to a confession box, I haven't been to one, so I don't know. I've only seen the movies. So if you go to a confession box, I'm assuming there are times. I think there are days I've seen in Manhattan outside church confession, Wednesdays, this is it. So you can't just walk in on Thursday and say, oh, I need this. So our founder of Christian faith, Christian church, Christian tradition, was against rules and regulations set by the religious people. He was all about God, and he did say, like there's a verse when somebody asks Jesus that, should we pay taxes? And he said, yes. What belongs to God, you give that to God, and what belongs to Caesar, you give that to Caesar. And he didn't say that go against them. But when it came to religious norms and traditions, he knew that these are not divine. In our language, it will be, these are not biblical. Because a lot of the rituals, a lot of the rules we are supposed to follow are not in the Bible, right? These are designed by, I don't know, back then they used that term, designed by the church councils. They benefit some people. Like, for example, if a very simple person who just wants everything set for them so they could just sign, forms are best. Go fill out a form and give it to IRS or the other agency. But then there are people who would say, no, I don't fall into this. There are certain forms where, now here's an example. So I am always confused what race or ethnicity I belong with. There are forms that would say, okay, what's your race? It's usually white, African American, Asian. So I would say, okay, I can go in Asia because But then, in general, people think Asians should be with different people, features.
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of thing. Do I belong in this form? No. But what can I get out of this?
Yes.
These institutions do have some good stuff to offer too, but it might have a lot of stuff that's irrelevant. Do I believe in everything the church believes in? No.